Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Relate to You. As you can see from our attire, hair, and blankets, today is obviously a really comfortable conversation. It's more of just sit with us and have a little bit of a chat. And we have a lot to say because it's been
months
yes, since we last posted anything. Mm-hmm. So, Lula, how have you been?
Good. It's been very rough to schedule in recording time.
Yeah.
Because we've both been very busy with new phases in life.
Correct.
New seasons.
Lula's favorite word.
Yes, for those
I'm gonna buy her a shirt that says seasons.
And I think to those that have been our fans for a while, I think they deserve to have closure.
The 96 of you, the loyal 96 of you. This video is for you.
For you all, yeah,
for sure.
So, I mean, we had so many plans of content. We have so many plans for, like, you know, we should use guests and we should do this and we should do that. But life has been happening, and I think it's also wise to take a step back and realize that maybe other things need our priority and need our attention. And yeah, so on my end, I got a new job. Yay! And
thank the Lord.
And I am still the administrator for all intents and purposes at church, but not full time.
Right.
I'm only there like a day out of the week. So
until the replacement is
found. But I'm still in many ways still very much involved. I'm still very much, serving my church, serving our members. But my other job is something that I've been wanting to do. It's something that it's very close to home. I think that, I want to work with people. I've always wanted to work with you, even though it doesn't come easy to me. How interesting. But I feel like, as a teenager, when I was a teenager, I feel like I needed a lot of help in my teenage years. And I feel like I can give that back now as I'm older. So in that sense, I wanted a job that I could give that back to teenagers. And I finally got it. So I just wanted to grow personally and professionally. And I think this job is going to give me that opportunity. So I'm very, very grateful for that. But that is not the only big news today. Kiss.
I'm gonna add more crema a los tacos for Lula's. I think it's important to mention that in the span of the time that we've recorded these videos, the majority of the time she was the church administrator. She was the secretary, treasurer, bishop secretary. I mean, she fulfilled so many hats. She was a part of so many other ministries. And so I think that to summarize it in like 2 minutes of like, okay, now I have a new job, doesn't really do it justice. I think that it's a huge change in her routine, in her life, in her time, in her circles even. It's going to be a change. And I'm extremely proud to see this moment happen. Not that I don't want her to work at church, not that I don't think her job is important. I worked at church. I'm a huge advocate, believer of the job, but I know what it entails. And Lula did it on her own for a solid 3 years.
Almost 3, yeah.
Almost 3 years. And yes, she had help here and there, but ultimately, like, the burden was on her. And so I feel like this change, while it's good and it's exciting, and she's doing something that she loves and she's feeling fulfilled, I think it is like saying goodbye to a version of yourself
Oh, yeah.
that you've been for many years. And I think that's what, like, in this whole year, you know, like when we started this new season, we were like, we're gonna record and we're gonna bring all these ideas and stuff. We're even gonna get a new like scenery. But God had a plan for Lula, and it was a plan that could not be fought. And it happened, and she's here, and now she's in a different phase in her life. And sometimes things like that happen where it's like it literally was from the Lord. And so I'm very proud of all the work that she's done, not just as her best friend, but as a recipient of a lot of her hard work at church. What she's done, it all goes unnoticed most of the time. And there isn't enough appreciation at times for her position, for her leadership. And so I just have to say that, because I think that it's easy to just be like, yeah, that's what I did for a while and now I'm here. But it's like, you've talked about it for a long time on this podcast, and it deserves its highlights.
No, you're right. I guess in my head, it's just the faster I go about it, the less I'll feel it.
Emotional
I'll get. Yeah.
Before we move on to anybody else's news, what are some things that you feel you could say you took from this season of your life, and positive things? What are some positive areas of growth or turning points in your life that you think is putting you in a positive trajectory for the future?
I think skills that I might use for life, I think humility. Humility is a huge one. It's a huge one. And not so much in the aspect of what you were talking about, of like a lot of the work I do gets unnoticed and I want to be noticed or I want to be recognized. Not in that sense. As you mentioned, you also were in that position. Humility in terms of working with different people, working with people that have their own character flaws. They have their own ideas, opinions about how certain things must be done. And then this might offend people, but sometimes church people are the hardest to please. Are the hardest to serve, especially because I feel like we live in a world where society now, it's very much about like boundaries. And I feel like in a secular job, you can have more boundaries. 100%. You can be like, no, I'm not gonna show up that day because it's not my day, or it's not my time or whatever. But in the church aspect, your boundaries are not very much respected if they interrupt someone else's boundaries. So that's very, very hard. And I think for that you need a lot of humility to just humble yourself and be like, you know what, the way this person's talking to me, the way this other person dealt with this or whatever, it has nothing to do with me, and it has a lot to do with maybe what that person's dealing with at that moment, or what they're going through at that moment or whatever. So that's one that I feel like it's gonna help me throughout my life, throughout the
when
rest
you
of my
can
life.
work with people from church, you can work with anybody.
You can work with anybody.
Really work with
yes,
anybody.
100%.
Yes,
100%. Because I feel like you're equipped to take a no. Yes. You're equipped to be rejected, and you're equipped to, or you're equipped to have people, how do I say this? Yeah, you're just equipped to take it in and not retaliate.
And you can always justify a person at work of like, they don't know, Jesus. They don't have a relationship with God. They don't know any better. I can take that from them, but when you are surrounded by believers and Lula is a certain way, and I'm like, she reads her Bible. I know she does.
Yeah.
And then she's that way with me. That's a much tougher pill to swallow. And having to show the love of Jesus to a believer, I think sometimes it's harder than to show it to someone who has no awareness.
Yeah, 100%
of who Jesus is.
And I think that also plays a lot of like, you know this person, because they said it to you, right? And maybe you have seen them too, but you know this person prays, reads, goes to events and is very much involved, and then they walk, they act a certain way, they talk a certain way, and it's like, oh, okay, well, and it's hard to justify that person.
Right.
It's really hard to justify that person. But then I remember, and we talked about this before, when I started working at church, it was really hard for me to understand that people from church were a certain way. I took it really, really hard. Because in my head, it's like, all of you are so much better than I am because you've been in church for so long and you've been, generation after generation of Christians, and yet you treat me this way. How do we, how does that make sense?
Right.
So with the years, of course, and with the help of the Lord, I learned better, and I learned that the church is precisely for those people.
But I think when you successfully achieve working at church, and what I mean by successful is that there are people who walk away from church because someone, offended them or hurt them. And there are cases where you should leave a church, especially if you are harmed or whatever. There are cases for that. But there are some instances where you just have an individual that's really difficult. And no matter how much love you show them, you're like, this person is unstable, or this person is not a very kind person. And sometimes demonstrating that person the love of Jesus is also setting a line of like, okay, I can love you from afar,
right?
And I can set a boundary of like, I don't need to interact with you all the time. But I think successfully, working at church is also reminding yourself why I'm here. And I'm not doing it for people. I'm not doing it for pastor or leadership. I'm here because I'm doing it for the Lord. And when you walk away from that without any bitterness or resentment towards that person or towards that leader that might have said a few comments or whatever, and you can genuinely say, I come to church because of the Lord. I'm in this ministry because of the Lord, not because of that leader. I think that you can walk away from that situation successfully. Because then you have individuals that are like, I'm done with this church. I'm done because of that one person. And it's like, but why were you coming in the first place?
Yeah,
absolutely. You're coming for the Lord. You learn to turn off certain people and say, people are imperfect. People are what they are. And we move on, But my relationship with God is going to be unaffected regardless of, who else attends that church. So I think you manage that. And I think that, I know for me, I went through my own roller coasters, but I do think that I love my church. And there's a lot of people who, after working at church or even serving in ministry, ya no pueden. They're like, I can't be. Se desilusionan mucho, and they're done with church. And I'm glad that, you didn't have that experience and that you could still come to church and congregate, for the right reasons.
Yeah. I think that's another thing. I'm glad that you mentioned that. That's another thing that I learned. I learned to love my church because I learned all the work that goes behind just one service. Right. I know that a lot of people, there are very, very few people that can sit in a service and truly understand, someone paid for the gas, someone paid for the lights, someone, we are all able to be here because someone is somewhere doing some type of work. And not just the administrative work, but also whoever helps us with, the clogged toilets, or whoever helps us with the tables that magically appear in the dining hall, or the coffee that's always there, or the tear down after a certain event. So I feel like there's very few people that understand all of that.
Yes.
Are we a perfect church? No, by no means. Are there churches where even in the parking lot there's already something going on? Absolutely. But what I'm saying is that I learned to love my church because I learned that there's so much work behind it. Even prior to just that Sunday, days prior to it, not just specifically the morning of, but just days prior, when there's baptisms, when there's baby dedications, when, there's so many moving parts. Even within the music department, sound and getting someone to do it and everything. And so, for funerals, same thing. I think part of why we know a little bit of every ministry in a way, or, in terms of you know, in terms of the way the church works, like
Right.
the sound, where to turn everything on and off, and you know, all that stuff, is because for funerals we would do it on our own. You know, we would do on lyrics, and we would be on sound, and we would be, you know, on
Print the program.
and all everything. So I feel like because of that, you start to love your church. You start to love the work you do, the work others do. You start to appreciate it more. You start to really see, man, like, you know,
Someone did this.
someone did this.
Yes.
Someone has been investing their time Sunday after Sunday, week after week, day after day. And so I think I got knowledge of what goes on behind just one service, but I have appreciation for all those people that are willing to help us so that we can get a Sunday going.
Right.
All those moving parts, and it's incredible. It's really, really incredible. I would say that if you don't feel like you belong, or if you don't feel like you know, or you just want to love more your church, serve, volunteer for something, and you'll start to see, oh wow, it's not as
It
easy.
doesn't just happen.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
table don't just magically happen. You know, they're there, and
Yes.
the setup is not just magically there. No, like, you know, when you flush the toilet, that doesn't happen by magic.
Yes.
So I think there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that happen.
And if you hit a point where you're like, how come we're not appreciated? Remember that at some point you were the person that didn't appreciate it.
Yeah,
100%.
100%. I mean, how many Sundays didn't I just show up and be like, you know, you take everything for granted?
Yeah.
Because you don't know. But if you want to know, and so I think that's another thing that I'm walking away with, this knowledge of. And it's funny because I go to other services, I go to other churches, and I know I can appreciate the usher at the door. I can
Yes.
appreciate the, you know,
That sister in the back.
that sister in the back, yes, who's doing what I would be doing. You know, I can I can appreciate all these moving parts because I know how hard that is.
Yeah.
I know how much work anyone must have put into it. So it's a very beautiful thing. It's a very beautiful thing. And then lastly, well, not lastly, but among other stuff, I think another thing that can help me for the rest of my life is I got to see Pastor not just as a pastor, but as a teacher, like a mentor.
Yeah.
You know, yes, he was a boss, you know, and I think
Most of the time,
and he does a very good job. But, you know, but I feel like the times that have helped me the most were the times where he was just like, well, you know, let's
debrief.
Yes, where he would share with me,
Yeah.
you know, his devotional, or where he would share with me, I'm thinking about preaching about this, and boom, you know, here it is, and I'm like, oh wow, yes, Pastor, do it, or don't do it, or, you know, do what you will. So I think that's also something that you can 100% agree with me that that's something that not everyone gets.
No.
And we're very blessed to see Pastor in that light, to receive essentially what he would receive from the Lord. So it was sort of almost like this passing down, sort of. I remember that I would tell you, like, oh my God, Pastor today told me this, and we talked about this, and we talked about that. And for me, in many ways, relaying that information to you helped me understand it better.
Right.
As I was resharing with you what he shared with me, it was like it's clicking even more now.
It took me a while to appreciate that I did have a specific kind of pastor for a while, because I think that as employees of the church, employees that work side to side with pastor, oftentimes it feels like you have a boss more than you have a pastor.
Right.
And the reality is those moments where he would take the time to share with us this biblical insight and these truths, and sometimes even these mysteries that are so jam-packed,
But you're like,
and you don't even end to a conclusion.
yes.
You're just even more confused, or even more like, I don't understand. It took me time to really understand that that was an experience that not everybody gets. And so just as much as maybe, you know, I could have thought, well, oh, that member has a little bit more of pastor than I do. It was also maturity to get to a point of, oh, but the average member doesn't get this kind of conversation, this kind of intimate, you know, insight into the way he thinks and the way he preaches and stuff like that. So I think that, again, growth and understanding certain things. But I feel like, yes, I agree. There's conversations that I don't think I'll ever forget. Specifically financial, you know, God, how we do our finances as a couple, my husband and I. Thanks to pastor, you know, there were pivotal moments of conversations that shaped the way that I thought. And even though I'm an adult and I have my way of thinking and I don't always agree with pastor, there were these moments where I was like, oh, that is something that I'm going to put in my mental toolbox that I don't think I'm ever going to get away from. And so I completely agree with you.
Yeah. So
100%.
I mean, I could sit here and say a lot more other stuff, but those are the three main things that I feel like they're just treasure to me now, and I'll be using it. And
here's to a whole new world.
A whole new world, guys. And I'm looking forward. I think right now what I'm looking forward is how am I gonna implement everything I've learned in this job, in the secular setting. And you betcha, you best believe I will.
She will.
You best believe I will. So I'm excited for that. I'm really excited. Pray for me, guys. You know, I don't post a lot, so I don't think I'll keep you posted. but just pray for me. Just pray for me, guys.
Yes.
Yeah. Now moving on to you know, no more important, but very, very important news. Something that I feel like it's even more life-changing than just a new job.
We got some new frames in the house.
That's not what I mean. Kiss, take it away. It's your platform now.
I don't think I had ever talked about it on the podcast because it was still very fresh. The experience that I was going through. But for those that were close, for those that knew what was happening in my personal life, I suffered 2 miscarriages in the span of about 8 months. And it was probably the most excruciating type of pain that I've ever gone through. Front row seat, this one had. And so it was a very, very difficult, trying time of grief. I mean, more than my dad. And for those of you that stuck around, you know the way I grieved with my dad. And it was 10 times worse. And so it was something that was hard to communicate because I was still navigating through a lot of things. And there was a lot of questions of why did this happen? And if you guys really pay attention to some of the videos that we posted, it was always there. The why, or the there's this solemn period in our podcast where, I mean, we were both going through it. We were both going through versions of loss. And that was really hard. And my husband and I, we started praying, we started trying, and we could not get pregnant. And that season of waiting was so long and so frustrating and confusing because the 2 times I got pregnant, we weren't trying. So it was like, now that we're trying, it's not working, it's not happening. But in those almost 8 months that we were trying to get pregnant, there was so much, prayer. There were so many people that were in our lives that were praying with us. I mean, I got to a point where I would tell anybody, pray for me, you know, and I would receive when someone would say, you're going to have a baby. And it wasn't until one of the sisters in our church said, you need to stop asking God. You need just to start thanking God for what he's giving you and truly believe that what he's giving you has happened. And I started that in the month of June. And I just started thanking the Lord. Thank you, Lord, for my baby. Thank you, Lord, for my baby. And I would declare these things over the life of my baby, and I would hold my empty womb, and I would just say, Lord, you know, it's going to happen. Thank you, thank you, thank you. In 19 days of doing that, in that span, I got pregnant.
Whew.
And it was June 19th, I'll never forget. I was late, and I was positive that I wasn't pregnant. And I was like, I'll just take a test just because I've been through this before. Every month I'm late sometimes and I freak out and I take a test and it's negative. I just need to rule it out. It's 2 solid lines. And there was this stillness because as much as I was praying for this, I couldn't believe it. It was like, oh my goodness, this is here. And the wave of fear that like started to come in, the doubts of, but is it really going to happen? But is it really going to happen? And I've dealt with that in this journey. But I'm having a girl. And I can already feel her. Thankfully, we've had no complications, and she's just growing. And even having a girl was a shock in and of itself because we were praying for a boy. Nothing wrong with girls, but we were praying for a boy. And I mean, in the span of like Lula finding a job or looking for a job, and then me going through, you know, a relatively rough pregnancy in terms of, you know, throwing up. I've thrown up more in these last 5 months than I ever have in my entire life.
I think that was also why it was hard to record, because
Yes.
I wanted to be sensitive of like how hard you were having your first trimester. It was,
Yeah.
I mean, we literally stopped talking for a lot of it.
Yes.
Right? We wouldn't talk because it's like I feel like that's what was gonna happen. It would take so much energy out of you to continuously be throwing up, continuously be feeling sick,
Yes.
to continuously be feeling nauseated, and you know, at some point even dizzy. That It was
Yes.
like, I just don't. Sorry, but I'm not gonna be on the chat, or I'm
Yeah.
not gonna be, you know, active, or I'm not gonna be present. So I think you remove yourself from a lot of things. And
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not gonna be like, so are we recording or
Right.
not?
Right. And
And
I'm
I feel
thankful.
like we did it once in your once.
We
We
did.
recorded once while you were going through it, and it was almost like a miracle that she didn't feel.
I had thrown up earlier that day.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
there you go. See,
I had thrown up earlier that day. And so I appreciate that, you know, the people closest to me understood that and respected that, and nobody held like this like resentment towards me, because I really did. I mean, just going to work was really hard, and I would throw up at work, but I couldn't leave work, and then I'd come home and I was completely spent. But then there was this weird mixture of like, but thank you, Jesus, because she's there and she's
Exactly,
alive and she's
exactly.
growing,
Because it
or
was
my
a-
baby is there.
because it was a constant confirmation of what was happening within you.
Constant.
So it was a constant confirmation of my prayers answered, but I feel
Yes,
this
I
crappy.
feel like this, yeah.
Yes.
And so I still have a little bit of that, you know, morning sickness, all day sickness, but it's not as bad as it was in my first trimester. And so I'm very thankful for that. But I mean, we are in this new season and we're so excited. We're so excited for what God has for us. And obviously this is going to be a change in our routine and my life. I mean, how I'm going to be now as a mom. And so it's the role I've always wanted to play. And so I'm really excited about that. And I'm excited that I know like the people closest to me are going to see me through that journey and be a part of it. And so as much as, you know, this podcast has been kind of like a time capsule of so many experiences, and we had all of these dreams and these goals for this podcast, the Lord is leading us in other areas. And, you know, we've talked about this. We almost ended it once, but then we were like, no, we're still here. But it seems like it's a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
And it's time to, you know, accept that, one, what's happening in our lives is not a negative thing. It's a positive thing. But we're also not in the same place with time and availability. And like I told Lula, like, versus recording with her or, you know, setting up the Christmas tree with my huge belly and drinking hot cocoa and watching a Hallmark movie, I think I would rather have those intimate moments with her versus recording, you know. And we thank everyone, those 96 of you that stuck with us and found us interesting or funny,
which most of them are family.
Most of them are family and church members, and those of you that quoted back to us, you know, certain things that we've said, and just Michelle, were true fans, Anna. You know, Anna, Erica, you know, Mel's, Erica Ruiz. You know, y'all are, you know, the main people we did this for, Pastor even, and we thank you for that. But at the same time, I think it's also like a beautiful way to close this chapter, and, you know, see what the Lord has for us. I mean, before you know it, Lula's gonna be pregnant, you know, and
in the name of Jesus,
you know, and honestly, like, we just don't know what's going to happen. And so I'm just excited. I'm proud of the amount of episodes we posted, of our posts on Instagram, of our thumbnails, of our topics. I mean, our embarrassing stories that will forever be, you know, there and for our kids to watch. And I'm so happy to have done this with you. And I'm pregnant. I'm emotional. It's not easy to do a project with a friend because we both have different ideas. Sometimes Lula wanted to do something and I was like, no, or vice versa. And there was a lot of compromise. But then there were those moments where we created something that we were like, this is amazing, you know, it's gonna go viral or whatever. And it didn't, you know, and then there were a lot of moments of growth and, again, pivotal moments that if we look back, we're like, oh man, like, I was going through it in that video, you know, or like, what was I thinking? Like, I do not agree with that. So definitely, you know, a journey of growth, a journey of friendship, and now we're going to go through another transition. And so, yeah, that's all I have to say.
I think that, obviously you, because you lived it, you know, just the amount of pain and suffering and, patience that it took, right, to be here, to have a baby girl and everything. But I do want to say that as your friend, obviously it wasn't as hard as it was for you and Joel, but it was very different than when seeing you mourn that versus seeing you mourn your father. Mm-hmm. I feel like even though I didn't know what I was doing when I was trying to help you when you were mourning your father, I feel like I still managed to somewhat be there, managed to somewhat, like, you know, but with this waiting time, it was really hard because I knew there was just no words in the book, no words whatsoever that could have given you that comfort. Right. So and I feel like and it was always that of like, man, am I being bad for not saying the right things? Or in my case, if I'm not gonna say anything good, then maybe just shut up. And I would do that. I would just not say anything and just be like, oh, well, you know, that must be hard or stuff like that. So I feel like to even, and I remember you shared this with me, that even within your relationship with Joel, it made it deeper. Mm-hmm. it made it so much more intimate to the point that you were like, I didn't know we needed to get more intimate than this, right? Because there were a lot of topics that you guys had to address, and they were very quick, very soon in your marriage.
Yeah.
And I feel like that also happened within our friendship. I feel like even through that, we managed to be like, well, maybe there's some things we need to talk about so that we can move forward, even if we don't know how to, but we navigate it. And so I feel like even in our friendship, we got a lot more intimate in many aspects. And I also think that I couldn't have made this podcast, like this specific podcast, with anyone else. Maybe a different podcast, maybe, but not relate to you. Not hear me out, because I feel like we were very intentional about what we wanted to put out. Mm-hmm. We were very intentional about, like, it wasn't just like, let's get together and just talk because we talk. No, it was very intentional.
There was thinking behind it.
Even though sometimes it may not feel like it, but there was thought process behind it. There was some preparation behind it. Even in that, we had fights, we had arguments, because we were preparing.
Right.
We were preparing for it, and we didn't want to.
We didn't post every episode, guys.
No,
there's like 10 episodes that are archived that will never be released.
Yes, that are just for our ears only. But I feel, guys, that as we're closing this chapter, I think that I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful that it happened with you. I'm very grateful that in many ways you're very different than I am. Because you saw it in the future. You were like, I want this to be a time capsule, and I want to have something that I can look back, that I can show my kids and everything. And I don't think I've ever thought that way. And I feel like in many ways you bring that out of me, of like, oh, this would be nice to look back. And maybe I should take more pictures, and maybe I should record more often. And, maybe I should do these things, not so much for the me right now that might not want it, but for the future me that might look back on it, And
ay, mira qué flaquita.
And I think in many ways it's sort of like a journal, like what you were saying. Sometimes I go back on our episodes and I'm like, man, I'm
our number one fan. I've given us all the views.
And I was just gonna tell you, I just keep going up because of me.
It's just me on embarrassing stories.
And I feel like that's something I'm always gonna be grateful for, because had it not been for you pushing that idea, I don't think we would have this, And I'm pretty sure our friendship would have flourished some other way, but it flourished in this beautiful way because of the podcast. So I'm very, very thankful to you, to God. I'm thankful for the viewers. We never made it to 100, but one could argue that 96
people in a room.
That's
a lot of people.
Want to hear what we have to say. And that's enough for me.
Yeah.
That's always, I think our intent was never to be famous or to blow up or whatever. I think our intent was always...
We would have talked about trendier stuff.
Yes. And I think our intent was always to share our beliefs and to share our love for God and to share our opinion on whatever we thought was good.
And to embarrass ourselves for the greater good.
And to relate to each other.
Even though a lot of people can't relate to our embarrassing stories.
You're right.
It's for your entertainment,
yes.
And it's there forever. And just watch us go viral after it's over. Someone finds us and like, who are these girls?
And you know what? A lot of your stories though, I feel like they would have gone viral. Like I feel like you should have done shorts. Like there's so many stories where I'm like, oh my god. Like my sister Adriana, she still she dies every time she remembers when you said when we were talking about like what do you do when you go to a home and the food is not good. And you're like, well, you do the classic. You fold it.
Oh, yes,
and you put it in the
yes,
trash.
yes.
And she was like, oh my God, I didn't think she would do that.
Yes.
I'm like, oh, well, yeah, I guess it's a universal classic move. Or you put it upside down, you know, the plate on top. And she's like, and she laughs, you know, when we talked about that, she was dying. She's like, oh my God, because it's so funny. I'm like, those are the things that are relatable.
Honestly, there's just a lot of things, you know, that we did on this podcast, and
I think the question is the question at the end of the day, because we were called Relate to You. The question at the end of the day is, did we relate to you guys? I know we related to each other for sure. But
did we relate
to you?
Which is funny, you know, because one of the things that I did notice from, like, and maybe again we're evolving, we stopped disagreeing with each other. At the beginning of our podcast, I do think that there was a lot more of, like, we're coming in from very different perspectives, so we are trying to relate to each other. And then I don't know, something about the last season and a little bit of the middle one, we agreed a lot, often.
I think
we kind of morphed.
Yeah, I think it was the spiritual aspect.
Yeah.
I think it was definitely the spiritual, because in life,
we still have a lot
of differences. But I think in the spiritual aspect, we stopped disagreeing, and we were able to be like, you know what, that's actually a good point. That's true.
That makes sense.
I can agree with that. And I feel because of that, once you agree on the spiritual sense, there's a lot of other things that you're like,
yeah, it falls under that.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like God really said, I'm gonna do a work in you.
but that's true. I think the way to close it is, you know, did we relate to you? Did you find any common ground with something that we were sharing or talking? And before we close this episode, what are your 5 relate to you lives rent free in my head?
My very, very first one is your mom separating you.
Head is like right here. My head is on his shoulder, and I'm just crying. And then I just feel this force, man, just come in and separate the heck out of us, and like just get in between us, and like I'm like just like what's pulling me away? And I'm like looking, and I'm like, what's pulling me away? Oh my God, is that my mom? Oh, don't make a scene. And I just like kept praying, because my mom really said, not on my watch. Not on my watch.
Did someone ever tell you something?
Yes. There was a running joke of like, dude, do you remember that time that your mom split you guys up? Oh my God. And then I had like this one of my friends, he was just like, man, dude, like you guys were really like hugging. You know, and they're like, your mom like struggled to like get you. Oh my God, dude. To this day, oh my God, I am mortified.
Oh my God, I can't imagine your mom is so tiny. Of course she was.
No, dude.
That's probably gonna be my first, dude. The amount of times I've gone back to that video and just to listen to that part.
Yes.
Like all I can picture is your mom going like this and you two going like, whoa, what is this? What is this force? And just the embarrassment overall afterwards, you know. And so that's one. My second one would be, oh, you know me. You know who I am. You know.
We know each other. And again, here's to give context onto why I was an overconfident child or kid or teenager. We had one conversation once, like literally, like I think it was like hi or like God bless you or something. It was so quick. But I felt confident enough
There was a connection.
that he walked away from that interaction like, I'm gonna remember who she is enough that like if she ever texts me, I'm gonna remember her, right? What school I go to, he knows my age, he knows like all those things, and still like he knows who I am. So I was like, oh, you know who I am, kind of a deal. He knows who I am. He said he knew who I was.
Sobraba decir who you were.
Exactly.
That one lives rent free in my head. I think the other one, it was you having that job at a health fair. Where you had to tell people.
I had to tell people how to be healthy. Oh my goodness, qué vergüenza. Y la bola de grasa.
La bola de grasa.
Yeah. I forgot about
Pero
that.
specifically, me da risa, and if you guys go back to the video, me da risa porque you're saying, ay, a lo mejor por eso me corrieron. And dude, that sent me. You can tell in the video that I'm dying when you said that.
I had to talk to people about healthy living. Y tenía que agarrar una bola de grasa y explicarles qué comidas causaban esa bola de grasa mientras yo era una bola de grasa. Do you know how humbling that is? Dude, so mi puesto era una mesa.
Wait, hold up. Before we do not brush over that like you didn't just say it. I didn't want to laugh. I knew where you were going with that.
Es la verdad, era una bola, era 5 libras de bola
Irony,
de grasa.
the irony. Is that why you got laid off?
Dying inside. No, it wasn't because I was fat. It's because I couldn't get customers. I wonder why. Porque Karina worked for the same place y a ella sí llegó hasta el newspaper.
And the fourth one would be not specifically one episode, but the many times that we both just laughed on command. Like it was just so palpable how connected we were that we were like, we both knew what we were laughing about. And I feel like there were a couple times where we had to be like, okay, we need to let them know why we're laughing.
Yes.
But we were so connected that we were laughing about the same things. We just picked up on it, So I feel like it's that sometimes it's like, oh my God, I can't believe we like on cue, And then the fifth one would be
It can be yours too. You're allowed to think you're funny.
I think there was one episode where I don't know what I was on, but I was very heavy on my dark humor.
Oh.
And
What about you? Oh, I think she got stitches. And she
No remorse. No empathy. Like, no, yeah, she had to get stitches. No, like, I think she got stitches.
wait.
way out, pero lo encontramos on the corner of the street dead. No lo mataron.
No.
Yeah, no lo mataron. And it was like, man, Chucky. Pero sorry. Oh my gosh, I'm lacking a lot of empathy today. Oh gosh, no, we mourn our dog.
And I feel like when I talked about my dog that they
Chucky.
killed the Chucky.
Okay.
I feel
Man.
like
yes. It was twice.
Yes,
you
twice.
did it like 2 or 3 times that I was like,
yes,
all right,
yes.
like,
and I feel like that was the episode where I really showed people what I can be like with my dark humor.
her true self.
My true self. Not that I ever wasn't, but I do think that there was
We
always,
obviously modified
yeah.
certain things. Yeah.
you know, I wasn't gonna say something out of pocket just because, you know, no. So I feel like
Se te
that
salió.
that episode, I don't know, again, I don't know what I was on, but
It was
twice
the,
that episode, it was the dog and the girl.
Se murió el Chucky. And then it was the, I think she got stitches.
Yeah.
It was that episode.
Yes, it was that.
Yes.
So I think those live rent-free in my head. Yeah.
For me, my first one is that I can't, like the episode where she's touching my hair, where she's completely lost and she's touching my hair. And the funny part is that I felt it the whole episode, but Joel commented on that same that same
What's with the
podcast,
hair action?
and he was like, "What's going on?"
Yeah.
You know, and I just had to highlight it in the next episode of like, this is what was happening. Like I'm dying inside, and she's literally like,
I'm
with
lost.
her mouth open and everything,
Yes,
she's
I'm
lost.
Like I don't like to be touched. And the last example is it's happened here in the podcast room on an episode where I was telling a story and good old Lula thought it'd be a good time to touch my hair in that moment. And the entire time, guys, I am dying inside. I am legit dying inside.
Clip that in.
I continued on with my story, and I'm just like, all right, we're gonna get through this. She's gonna stop touching my hair. Oh, she's not gonna stop touching my hair. Oh, all right, this is gonna be for a while, and if I acknowledge it, it's gonna be weird, and if I make it weird, it's gonna be weird. So it's just not happening. It's okay. I had to get through the whole process as she was just in the zone, you know?
I was, guys. If you put it on a video and if you guys manage to watch it, you can see I'm gone.
You're gone.
I'm gone. I don't even know what you're talking about. I'm literally in your, like,
You're in my hair.
I'm in your hair.
Yeah, that lives rent free in my head. One of my favorite episodes that you talked about that made me lose it was that you were talking about the first time you ever saw a black person. And the fact that you were still like, pues sí, todavía me voy a meter. And like, to me, like the concept was like, wait, like you're, like this is the first person you've seen that's like different than you, and you're still like trying to like make an altercation, and you were like, yeah, I mean, yeah. And like,
But I still had that in me of like, no me voy a dejar, you know? Pero sí, I was intimidated by the language barrier and by the fact that, I'm going to say this because this is a safe place. I had never seen black people up to then.
I'm not gonna laugh.
You just did. So to me,
Oh my god.
honestly, that was a whole thing. That was a whole thing. I had seen dark skinned people, yes, but not black people. I like how you said, I'm not gonna laugh, and then you went off.
I'm sorry. You're telling me this is the first time you've encountered someone that looks different than you in this way. And you were still being
Yes.
like, no me voy a dejar.
Yes.
that was hilarious to me. I think it's not really like a thing, like a phrase, but the amount of times this woman could not press record. Like, I mean, it's just so many times that I didn't press record or I didn't do this. I'm like, oh my God, like we literally don't have audio. Like, we're not going to have audio for this episode. So that was, and it was always the same, like, I didn't press the audio every time. So I would just be like, oh my God. And then, Abunda la Caca is a staple. It should be a shirt. I mean, it literally should be a shirt. I don't think we've ever laughed. I don't think I had laughed that much, with her, because I mean, it was the storytelling, but where it made me laugh is because I didn't know how that story ended. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until that podcast that I found out that, the person in the story walked away from her. So the concept of her having said the joke and then just staying with that and then having this person walk away. It was the funniest thing that I could think of. I go back to that episode and it still cracks me up.
Describe his face.
Like he was looking at me like this. Like,
What is wrong with
not just what is wrong with you, but why?
Why me?
Yes. He questioned his existence. He questioned, why was I there?
All the equations are
Yeah.
in front of his face.
He was that meme of this lady like calculating. Why? Why? Like, not just why me, but why you? You know, and
What did I do?
yes. And I'm looking at him like,
It's funny, huh?
but then obviously he
I never knew how this ended, by the way.
he just,
I don't know if like you said bye. I don't know what happened.
no, I felt the embarrassment rush. I felt that like, oh, and he looks at me like that, and then he turns away.
No way, you walked away. It hurts. It hurts.
And then my last one is more of my favorite episode where Lula has her laugh is I'm telling a story about a memory that I thought was mine but wasn't. And I talk about how my sister saw a podcast that we did and was like, that didn't happen to you. That was my story and you stole it from me. And it's a Spanish episode, and I think it's like Historias de Niñez or something like that. And the way she laughs, I mean, the pitch she hits, and I've literally cropped the sound of a monkey like shrieking, and then her voice, and it's exactly the same. Like she was like, I can't do it, but it was like, like she hit a note that was like crazy, and then she falls to the side, she moves, she laughs, she just like, no puedo.
Me acuerdo, por ejemplo, me pasó recientemente cuando dimos la historia de cuando me escondí atrás de los bushes.
Ajá.
Annie vio ese video y ella me dijo, ¿eso no te pasó a ti? ¿En serio? Y yo le dije, ¿cómo? ¿Cómo? Claro que me pasó. Y dijo, yo fui la que me escondí atrás de los bushes. Me robaste mi historia. Yo le dije, ¿what? Le dije, Annie, yo me puedo acordar cuando yo salí y me escondí y esperé hasta que mi mamá me recogió. Y me dijo, no, fui yo, fue mi historia. Acabo que te suceda también, qué coincidencia que a las dos nos escondimos detrás de los bushes, pero yo cuando estaba viendo tu video dije, ay, voy a ver el episodio de Lula y Kes, voy a ver las historias que platicaron. Me sentí traicionada. Me robaste mi historia.
And that like laugh attack is probably like, again, because like I think if I tell these stories to regular people, they'll laugh or they'll be like, oh, that's funny, but there's no one that will ever laugh like Lula to my stories. Like she genuinely makes me feel like I should get paid for comedy because she just laughs with her whole being. So that episode, like if you really pay attention to what I'm doing, le estoy agregando más. I'm adding more to the story because she doesn't stop laughing, and that's bringing me joy. So that whole chemistry moment, that's a big, that's my fifth
that
one.
Is a nice
that's a fifth one.
I remember clearly.
I could quote it, guys. I could, but I'm not. Go watch the episode. But we are going to close our episode, close our podcast. Obviously, our videos and our Instagram are still going to be open, and we're going to be here if you guys watch us. Put us in the background while you're cleaning. But yeah, thank you for being a part of our
3 years, yeah.
3-year journey on this podcast, and may it go viral someday. May it go
When our
may it go
kids start
viral
watching
in
it.
India or Argentina, somewhere random. Let there be a little fandom that grows from there, and yeah, that's what I have to say.
Yeah. Thank you so much, guys, for all the support. Thank you so much, guys, for being my podcast partner. I love you, and we're excited to see where our friendship goes from now on. That we're not gonna have this other means of growing in our friendship and in our relationship, but
Let's hope Lula doesn't abandon me the fatter I get.
and
It's a big concern.
and let's hope that baby girl knows that I was here first. No, I'm excited to see Kes in her motherhood form, and I do believe she was born to be a mother. I think we were all created to be mothers, but I do believe there are certain people that just have it in them, and I do believe Kes is one of those. And I'm excited to see that happening, and this might be the end of a podcast, but we might have vlogs in the future with baby girl in it, sharing tips for motherhood 3 months in.
But she's gotta catch up, guys. She's gotta catch up, because to do something like that, we can't do we're not in the same season anymore. We're done and dealt with that. We need to be in the same season.
I wish. I
wish. I receive it.
I receive it. I will be in the same season when we start to do something similar,
Yes.
where we are both in the same season. So I receive it. Guys, pray for me. This girl needs to get married soon. In the name of Jesus. All right, guys.
We'll see you guys.
Bye.